Alright, if you've already watched any videos describing the quadratic formula, you've probably heard of the discriminant. The discriminant is really just a formula that's part of the quadratic formula that tells us a lot about what type of solutions we're going to have. And the discriminant is basically just b squared minus 4ac. So that small part of the overall quadratic formula, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. The discriminant is just this small portion without the square root. It helps to determine the number of real or imaginary answers, whether or not you'll have real or imaginary, and how many real if they are real. And the basic idea is this. Remember that that portion will be under a square root in the big overall quadratic formula. So if the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, comes up positive, greater than 0, that means that we have a positive number under a square root. And in fact, it'll be a positive plus or minus answer. Remember, it's plus or minus the square root of. So you'll end up with 2 plus or minus real, because the square root of a positive number is a real number, solutions. On a graph, that's quickly and easily represented by the fact that, remember, solutions to an equation are the same thing as x-intercepts on a graph. So knowing that if y was equal to 0, we would get solutions of 2 real answers. We would have 2 real x-intercepts on our graph. If the discriminant comes up perfectly 0, the square root of 0 is 0, and plus or minus 0 would still be 0. Therefore, the discriminant being 0 forces us to have 1 real solution. Therefore, basically your vertex of your parabola was your only x-intercept possible. And finally, if the discriminant comes up negative, if that plus or minus the square root, if you have a square root of a negative number, you're going to get imaginary solutions. And again, plus or minus those imaginary answers means two imaginary solutions. A negative discriminant makes 2 imaginary solutions. Basically because your parabola never touches, or you don't have any real x-intercepts. Remember, in order to be a real solution, it would also be an x-intercepts. But if you don't have any real solutions or any x-intercepts, therefore you must have had 2 imaginary solutions. Well, let's go ahead. We've got 3 examples here on the next page that we can take advantage of and quickly describe the type of question that we're going to be having. Find the discriminant and describe how many and what type of solutions an equation would have. Again, we're not finding the solutions, just the discriminant and describing what type of solutions we would have. So go ahead and plug those in to negative b, b squared minus 4ac, just the discriminant formula. So we take our b, 3, we're going to say 3 squared, minus 4 times a being 5, remember a from ax squared, remember our overall standard form equation, ax squared plus bx plus c. So we take out our a being 5 and our c being 8, and we can find out that 9 minus 20 times 8 would be 160, and we get negative 151, a negative number meaning 2 imaginary solutions. Now in the middle, on the other hand, we've got b squared, 8 squared, minus 4 times a, negative 16, times c, negative 1, so 64, minus, notice the triple negative means it stays negative, and 4 times 16 times 1, well 4 times 16 is 64, we get exactly 0, and we get 1 real solution. Remember, your discriminant is 0, your interpretation is that there's 1 real solution. Finally, up top here, on the right, we have b squared, 4 squared, minus 4 times a being 8, times c being negative 3, so 16, negative and negative makes plus, which already tells us we should end up with a positive answer. 4 times 8 is 32, times 3 would be 96, and essentially 112 is our discriminant, leaving us with 2 real solutions. Again, any positive number would be 2 real answers. I hope that helps you with the discriminant, and it'll help you hopefully with quadratic formula as well. Good luck and have fun.